What's up, everybody, and welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Week 13 is here. It's hard to believe it. It feels like the season is flying by, especially this time of year with all these big matchups that are on the slate, especially this weekend, though. Indiana, Ohio State, Arizona State, BYU, Army, Notre Dame. What a week, and we're going to break it all down tonight for you. Along with, we're going to give you our best bets in Dog's Dog as usual. But the boys are all here. We're happy to have him here. We have a couple last episodes with Reese before he ships off to serve our country right before the Army-Navy game. But we appreciate that. Let's talk to him. Reese, how we doing tonight? A little dark in the room. Are we feeling down, or are we going to pick the picks up? He's on mute, but we'll give him a little break because he's serving our country.
Got
but
him.
Here's the bounce back. Reese, how we doing?
Oh, there we go. Internet's a little bit laggy too here. Hand up. It's on me right here. Accountability. I was looking at some more bets, trying to get a better Dog's Dog. We had DraftKings up, but we're good. We got a couple more episodes left. Why would I be perfect? I have been perfect ever on this show. We better on a good note. Going out the way I came in, baby.
We just need to go out on a high note. Just send you away, like give him a 5-0, 6-0 ATS board weekend, and he's back and he's building for when he returns. But Jake, how we doing tonight? Quiet from you so far, but are we ready to break down the Week 13 slate?
Yep, I'm just soaking it in, soaking it up with Reese. Any last minute we get with Reese is going to be great. So
am I missing a joke here, or what's going on?
I don't know.
Maybe just got some giggles.
It was a had to be there thing. Reese just going hand up accountability, just post absolutely getting tortured by 12 and 11-year-olds on Fortnite earlier today.
We're not talking about Fortnite on the college football show.
It was too perfect because it felt like he had intention there, and it was like an underlying joke. And it
wasn't. It was just hand up accountability there. I've been watching a lot of Baja sports. They had the
Reese, are you bad at Fortnite?
No, I'm good. I'm all right.
No,
we have a good time.
We're not good.
We're
having a good time. We're having a good time.
Awful.
They need.
Let us know, Rick.
They need an elders division where like you can only play if you were born in the 90s.
That's actually a thing.
Yeah, that would be nice. No, we're not competitive. I can't compete like that old video game video. That is us at the moment. But all right, with that, let's talk some college football. Let's lead it off. Let's open up a conversation. JP obviously is here. Let's go to him. JP, college football playoff rankings, week 2 come out. Illinois back in the swing of things, but it sets up a top 5 matchup in Columbus this weekend. What did you think of the college football playoff rankings? Anything that stood out or what they missed on?
Yeah, it started to get to the point where I'm just not going to be annoyed with it until the final rankings come out, because they kind of pick and choose the criteria they want to use for each team. It's not the same criteria for Texas as it is for Indiana, as it is for Missouri, as it is for SMU, as it is for, take your pick of the litter there in the top 25. So you kind of just need to let it be and let games play out. And then if they make a bad decision towards the end of it, when it's actually time to pick these teams, then we can rip them, because they're not using the same criteria. They're not doing the same thing with each team. And so honestly, I would just kind of let them do their thing. It's built for TV. Let it be for TV.
Yeah, there's a lot to change, obviously subject to change. They put up the matchups on there, broke those down. It's a lot of Big Ten, a lot of SEC, a lot of kind of what we expected. But from the Big 12 guy himself, what did you think of it, Jake?
Are you asking me specifically, or what do I think BYU getting thrown down to 14 and thrown as the 12? Is that what you're trying to get at?
You're the Big 12 guy. I want to hear some Big 12 thoughts.
Yep. Right now, I think that the committee is just trying to make it seem like they're playing the card where they believe in the G5. And I know for a fact that they do not. I don't know why you don't just keep, if you want to put BYU down to, I don't know, 12 or 13, like you already have them, fine. But to have the idea that if the playoffs started tomorrow, that BYU's resume is still not better than Boise. And hey, JP says it all the time, 134 here. We cover them all. We care about them all. But it's not even close. We're just literally saying that a loss to Oregon it's good enough for your resume, not the fact that you were down, 14-0 to San Jose State, or you're playing with your food against Nevada, who hasn't won a conference game all year. But BYU's got, the win against SMU on the road, the win at home against Kansas State when they were ranked. And And they actually, outside of Oklahoma State, feels like they dismantled. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say dismantled, but comfortably beat their opponents. That's just it's just the strength of schedule thing it's a joke.
There's definitely a hindrance from the committee against the Big 12 and just kind of a national viewing on the Big 12 and what it's been. And I don't agree with it. If you haven't checked out our fan perspective, it's a nice plug-in. Let's take a break. Let's subscribe. Let's hit the like button before I go into this. But check out our fan perspectives, Iowa State, Iowa, Nebraska. On the Nebraska show last week, I had a guest on, and he talked about BYU being the worst team within the top 15. And I was like, you sound like a Big 12 hater here. I just don't think the Big 12 gets enough national attention week to week, like watching these games. How about Desmond Howard last week talking about Arizona State and that game? Like it didn't matter. It wasn't going to be.
That pissed me off, man. Like
it pissed me off.
You get paid to, and he's not the only one. There's been comments the last couple of weeks, just even outside the Big 12, just some of the comments some of these ESPN guys have made. It's
who pays the bills? Who pays the SEC bills now?
It's laughable that they get to say these things on national television.
There's two sides of it for me, because you have the Big 10, the SEC, the perennial powers, the one full of schools that everybody follows. But then the Big 12, in my opinion, has been the most fun league to watch for me this year. I mean, it's so competitive. It's a race to the top. You can't tell who's going to come out of it. The top of the top conference preseason, Utah has fallen so far. BYU, who is at the bottom of the barrel, is rise to the top. It's the best part about college football, all within one conference. So I've loved what I've seen from the Big 12. Reese, any thoughts from you, Big 12 wise, or just college football playoff ranking wise?
I mean, I think they got it's. I mean, it is because BYU is the highest ranked team, but it's like I think it's shocked they went to the 4 but it doesn't make sense. And it's also like it's still early to we want to throw fits about these rankings and all that stuff but I mean, in 2 weeks is really when it matters. And if you get a win over 6 right now, it looks better. But we all know who the better teams are right now, so I don't think a win necessarily over wherever the hell number 8 is right now means more than a win over number 12. We know who the brands of the programs are. So I think it's people want to get upset about that stuff too, but I think it's just we know who these teams are, and it's just something that we can just talk about because we're sports fans.
I don't want to get on my soapbox or anything, but there's teams that don't even get mentioned when we talk these rankings, and they're in the top 15 or they're in the top 20 with a shot, right?
No, you go. I'm sorry, JP.
I was just going to go through teams that come to mind that I'm don't even get a second thought.
So we're going top 20. So this thought crossed my mind. Say BYU loses this weekend. Tulane wins out. Assumably you beat probably a ranked Army team. You put back on your resume, even if they lose to Notre Dame, they'll probably still be.
They should stay ranked.
Yeah.
Is there not a sliver of thought that you don't think the AAC champion in Tulane would pass a 2-loss Big 12 champion as that 12th seed at 5th conference
or Big 12 runner-up?
No. So say BYU loses this weekend to Arizona State. They've got 2 losses. Now you're guaranteeing your winner's going to have at least 2 losses. Could be 3. Say Tulane wins out. They're sitting there at 20, right behind Colorado, slightly in front of Iowa State, Arizona State. One of those 2 teams runs the table. So say put Iowa State in this conversation. Say Iowa State runs the table. Say Tulane runs the table. At what point are you going to put Iowa State ahead of Tulane right now? Because you're sitting behind them.
Already done it.
Tulane's resume is tough because they have the 2 Power 4 losses, and Iowa State every win's been Power 4 besides 2 of them.
Kansas
State, which Iowa State would assumably have the head-to-head win.
Yeah, in that situation. The Iowa State getting unranked at one point in time was stupid. First of all, if we're going to do that, the fact that they lost the second game and they dropped out of the top 25, stupid.
Well, I think it was probably earned because of who they lost to at the time.
Who's ranked back there?
That one's fine. Honestly, I think GP. This is crazy to say. I think it's more upsetting that Kansas State's not ranked right now.
we have them ranked, I believe. Correct.
I think what they're doing,
no.
Why is Illinois' resume better? Why is Missouri's resume better than Kansas State?
Missouri doesn't have a resume.
That's my point. And they have 3 losses. So I think Kansas State not being ranked for at least 25 right now is insane to me because they just lost to Arizona State's 21 now. You just lost to another ranked team.
I think I got to stand up for Illinois a little bit. There's a little bit of Illinois slanders. Illinois' resume is quite impressive. Their losses outside of Minnesota are good enough to be where they're at. So Illinois will not take that slander. Anybody else in the 21 through 25 slot, you can throw that around.
But it's not the losses. I think that's where everybody's getting so confused, because one team you're going to compare their losses, one team you're going to compare their wins.
Yeah, just pick what you want to talk about.
You know what I mean? Like it would.
But the wins also, you could do both for Illinois, the losses and the wins. They've have multiple road ranked wins. Illinois has a very good, I would say, resume compared to others within the realm. I mean, they're 7-3, but the losses to Penn State were close on the road, but they have like 3 or 4 ranked wins already.
Yeah, I think next week when we put out our rankings, I'll bracket them up once it gets spit out, the algorithm or whatnot. Because right now, how it would be is that we'd have Oregon, obviously, Texas is the SEC champion. Then you'd have SMU, and then BYU would be your 4 first-round buys. So, I mean, that's a lot different than what we're given right now from the committee. And then you would have at-larges out of Ohio State, Indiana, Penn State, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia. Is that enough? How many is that? That's 10, I think.
What do you, I think I've said this on the show before. What do you think if we went the first 3 weeks of the season, now especially in the transfer portal era where we know nothing about these teams preseason? What if we went the first 3 weeks of the year without rankings? And then after the third week, and then the third week or the fourth week, I guess it would be, you throw out whatever, the AP top 25.
You probably got to throw it week 5, because a lot of week 4 are the first opening conference matchups. So you get to see somebody within the conference, and then you can kind of judge it better. But it's going to be still a little loaded after week 3 in college football, outside of the perennial powers matching up Wisconsin, Alabama, things like that. But there's a lot of teams that weeks 1 through 2, 1 through 3.
There's a lot of name brands that would be ranked in that top 25 after week 5. It would just be all the 3 or 4-0 Big Ten, SEC, ACC.
I like that idea though, Jacob. I like it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't do that, but there's a glaring reason for it, that it creates the conversation that we also always have. So it builds the sport up. As dumb as it may be, it's going to create the conversation and cause arguments and cause people to talk about the sport and tune in, because X team is ranked in week 2 and they could get beat. So it benefits the sport overall for the general Joe Schmo, in my opinion. But all right, that's the college football playoff rankings. We had a lot of games to preview tonight. I think we have 6 on the slate. We're going back into full preview mode for these games. Let's lead it off with the big one. This one is a huge game in the Big Ten. Number 5 versus number 3, Indiana at Ohio State. Everybody's been talking. This is the first time we get to see Indiana against a ranked team. Their first chance to win a game against a ranked team and play on the same field as one. They get to do it in Columbus in the shoe. Tough spot, big noon kickoff. Ohio State's a 2-touchdown favorite. Let's break this one down from the top. JP, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, there's a lot of people kind of begging for Indiana to just get blown out, slapped around here. I think the team will be ready to go. I'm not expecting a Cincinnati team to walk in there unprepared and not ready to play a team up to this caliber. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to stay within the number. I'm not saying they're not going to, but I'm not expecting them to just get, mollywopped on Saturday afternoon. For me on this one, it's, can Indiana bow up defensively? And that's not just with the receivers on the outside with Ohio State. It's, can the defensive line and the linebackers really slow down a run game that's been very, very good for Ohio State? Because you got two-headed monster in the backfield. You have a running quarterback who's shown a lot of talent, who can create problems. And Indiana's been really good at getting after the quarterback. It's, can you continue to do it knowing you have to protect the run game and some weapons on the outside? Ohio State showed that they can still stretch the field against Oregon, against a really good front. So if Indiana's going to win this one, they're going to have to win some line of scrimmage battles and make sure that it's not consistently 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. If you look at what Indiana does offensively, I think one thing that really helps him is Rourke is really good at getting the ball out. They don't give up a ton of sacks. He's not a great mobile guy, but his ability to get the ball out of his hands into his playmakers' hands is a huge benefit. And you watched what Oregon did, and now obviously Gabriel's going to move around the pocket a little bit better than what Rourke will do. But they got the ball out of Gabriel's hands fast. They found the run game, and when it fit, they hit some big ones. So I think there's an opportunity there. Ohio State's shown that receivers can beat this team deep. Even the best of the best, and Denzel Burke has been beaten deep. Now, these Indiana receivers aren't the same caliber as Oregon's. I'm not sure if anybody in the country's is, but there is an opening for them to do that. So I'm excited to see what they can do there. two teams that really don't beat each other, two teams sound across both offensive and defensive lines. So I'm just pumped to see how this actually shakes out, because it feels like one of the first times where, a team that's not expected to be undefeated is undefeated in the Big Ten, and they feel like they have a shot to win a game where they're finally put it up against someone.
When I look at Indiana, I think of the offense, obviously, that sticks out to you, but their defense has been an elite group this year too. That offense is set up so well for Curtis Rourke to be successful. Get the ball out quick, just like you mentioned, JP. But the receivers have been good. Omar Cooper Jr., Elijah Surratt's been really good for this group. And Ohio State has gotten beat. They got beat a few times against Nebraska deep. These are quality receivers, and not to mention the backs that are also good receiving options, and Ellison and Lawton. These guys are emerging as one of the best duos in the Big Ten. As you would expect from a Henderson-Judkins combo, this is another great group of backs. Indiana needs to limit Ohio State on the ground, sort of similar to what Nebraska did to them in Columbus, and then they can stay in this game. But they have the offensive firepower to score points against this Ohio State defense. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in this game. I cannot wait to watch this Indiana offense against a defense and a program that's as highly touted as Ohio State, still has national championship hopes on the line, Big Ten title hopes on the line. This could get Indiana to Indianapolis for that game. So it's a massive one for obvious reasons, but I just cannot wait to see Cignetti's group in a big game like this that's not against a Nebraska or the following week against a Washington. This is the powerhouse of all powerhouses, and will you be relevant after you play them? We'll have to wait and see. Jake, what do you think on this?
Yeah, I think we got to mention the McLaughlin injury for Ohio State. I think that's huge at the center spot. And now you're going another week of preparation if you're Ohio State without another one of your starting offensive linemen. I'm really interested to see that. The Michael Kamara kid for Indiana, he's been really, really awesome. I know he's an edge guy, but they've also had tackle issues. So I think JP highlighted it. Like, you're going to have to rely on the rush from the Indiana defensive line to keep in this game competitively. Listen, it's just, I feel like we've been talking about this game for the last 3 weeks, just on like other college football shows and stuff. And it's just right. It's like put up or shut up at this point. Indiana, say what you want. You're playing for your college football playoff spot right now. Like, this is probably your one opportunity to do it. And statistically, like, I'm just convinced this team's a good football team. I don't feel like we've been, hoodwinked
They are
into thinking this team's bad. Like, we just talked about BYU. At least Indiana's looked, convincing in these games that they've won. And Cignetti made good points the other day. And of course he's going to support his guys, but he's like, when they played Nebraska, what was Nebraska? 5-1, whatever, 5-2. Now it's like, oh, you just beat Nebraska. And they scored 47 unanswered on Michigan State. And it's like, at what point are we just going to give this team some damn credit? I don't know. I think, it's going to be, it starts with defense for me. I think the offense, I trust Cignetti's group offensively to find a way to keep them in this game. But if they can't keep the Ohio State offense off the field from scoring, you're going to find yourself into some trouble on the road.
Hey, at what point, do you run out of ammo to bash Indiana? Because they've done what they've been asked. They've won games by larger margins. They've had one struggle game, and it was against Michigan. Like, not a good Michigan team, but you're not going to blow everybody out, all 12. Yeah. At what point is the strength of schedule thing just a cop out? Because they've done exactly what you would ask a team with the strength of schedule of that caliber to do. Correct.
Well, they said another point to his argument was every team we've played has a record above 500, or they were 500 when we've played them. We haven't played a team with a losing record yet on our schedule.
Definitely helps. I mean, it's an elite group. I think the Nebraska game, which you brought up at the time, we were 5-1, but nonetheless,
it was a 6
even
point
if it's
spread.
5-5 Nebraska, what they did to Nebraska's defense, nobody did. Not even national champion Michigan last year. Like, that Tony White group, what they did to that unit has not been done since, and it hadn't been done before. So I knew from that moment on, this was a real group, and they've continued to put up points like that all season. I expect them to get their points. I just think the interesting matchup comes on their defense is when they can stop the elite receivers at Ohio State. Can D'Angelo Pons, who's a little undersized, but one of the better corners in the Big Ten, the JMU transfer, can he limit Jeremiah Smith? Can he limit Amuka Mbeka? So we'll see that matchup. That's what sticks out to me. What do you think, Reese? This is an elite unit, but what do you think on the game?
you talk about it, but I mean, you said it before, but like Indiana's defense is going to have to be huge too. They haven't seen an offense like this so far with all the weapons they have. So like that's the challenge. I mean, this team is Indiana's defense is number 1 in the Big Ten in sacks, tackles for loss. I think they're like one of the top 5 defenses overall in the entire country. Like it's a stout defense. They haven't been tested like this. So like there's that you can kind of lean on. But again, there's the argument like those stats are those for a reason. They've gone into games and they've done what they're supposed to do. When you look at Ohio State, I mean, this team has only given up more than 17 points twice in the last 2 years. So it's a movable object, unstoppable force. Is it Indiana's offense going to win, or is it Ohio State's defense that's going to win, or is it just going to be a little bit of both? This going into the shoe, I think, is massive for Ohio State. If you got this in Bloomington, I think you'd be a favor Indiana a little bit more. But I mean, this is the toughest place Rourke's going to have to play so far. But again, these guys are going to be ready to go. But I think you just lean Ohio State with all the weapons they have. But I want the chaos. I want Indiana to go in there. I want this to be a good football game. I want this to be a 1-score game. I want there to be a shot for Indiana to win at the end. Because if this thing gets to be that blowout, then you get in that conversation of, oh, well, Indiana's one loss is to Ohio State by 25 or 20-something at home. Like, should they still be in? And like you get into that weird arguments like that too. So I want Indiana to go in there and play well.
All right. With that, let's go into roundtable score predictions. I want to throw this back up and give a shout out quickly. He's never had a name included in anything, but GA is the all-time subscriber, the Play the Fights on College Football show, all over the fan perspectives on every side. Always getting predictions. So shout out to him. This is a good man right here. And this is a great take, but let's go into score predictions, roundtable style. Who wins? Who covers? JP, lead it off.
Damn, I didn't want to go first. But I'll take Indiana in the points, but I'm going to take Ohio State to win by 10 here. I think, it gets close late. Indiana doesn't make a drive late. Ohio State adds on, kind of puts us at 2 scores with about 2 minutes to go or something like that. So I'll take Ohio State 31-21 here.
Gotcha. I'm going to take Indiana with the points as well. On the flip side, I'm going to take Indiana to win the game on the road. 2 things that are going to piss a lot of people off. I don't think we didn't mention Will Howard enough in this conversation and the mistakes he's capable of making, especially when he's pressured, because he has made those mistakes against teams, and that's kept teams in games with Ohio State that probably shouldn't have been. If you do it against this unit, Indiana is going to find your number and end up beating you at home. I don't know if the shoe's a tough place to play, enough for me to say that matters a lot. Sure, the travel sucks. Will it be loud? Yes. But as those fans, as daunting as playing at Oregon or even Iowa? Hell no. And I think it's almost a false sense of excitement for this game for Ohio State fans. How many times have they just drubbed Indiana in the past? They're thinking about Michigan here in a couple of weeks. So give me the Hoosiers on the road. I know this team's for real, and I'm going to stick up for 6 squad myself. I like the Hoosiers to win outright. What do you think, Jake? Shout out Cowboy the dog, making the show tonight. What do you think, Jake?
We're here to hear Cowboys pick. Here is Indiana's last 4 games leading up to this one: Nebraska, Washington, at Michigan State, Michigan. All those teams, if they take care of business, should be a bowl team this year. It's not that they haven't seen, sorry, Parks, don't want to jinx anything, but it's not that this team hasn't seen capable football teams. I like Indiana with the points. It feels kind of like the Nebraska game to me, where I think Indiana will have a shot to win the game with the ball in their hands, maybe 5 minutes to go. I don't know if I want to believe it, but I don't know if Indiana gets through with it. So I will take Ohio State to win 6 or 7, whatever you want to say it. But I will take the 13.5.
All right, 3 on Indiana. Reese, are we going unanimous? Your true style. Don't pick against it. Give us your honest thoughts. Who wins? Who covers?
Well, what I want isn't always what's going to happen. I'm going to take Ohio State to win and the points. I'll go like
it'd be a cool world if it did.
I think like 35-20. Like I think there's going to be a shot for a backdoor cover, like somewhere in there. I think something like that. Like I think because again, 17 points. You only get more than 17 points twice in the last 2 years. Like that's pretty impressive. That Jim Knowles defense, they know what they're doing. So I don't know. I think it'd be hard pressed for them to get if you're getting 3 or 4. If they get 3 or 4 touchdowns, they got to try to win this thing. But I just don't know if they get that.
All right, there it is. 3 on Indiana, 1 on Ohio State against the spread. 2, all three of you guys also to Ohio State to win the game. Just me on Indiana to win it outright. So there is the big matchup in Columbus. Let's move it down the line. But before we do so, let's talk No Rivals. Shop NoRivals.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping. Any of your premium collegiate headwear. New designs dropping. More teams coming. I know Kentucky just added recently, so check those out today. Use that code at checkout, PTFS, for free shipping on any of your premium collegiate hats today. Shout out No Rivals. Great partners, great designs. Check them out today. All right, let's go to the Big 12. Let's talk on a team we haven't gotten to talk about this year, but how exciting is it that this team is relevant? What a job by Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State Sun Devils. BYU comes into town fresh off their loss against a pesky Kansas team. But let's break this one down. Let's go down to Jake first, of course, being the Big 12 guy. Give us your thoughts on this matchup.
Yep. Ball's in Arizona State's court. Arizona wins and they control their own destiny. Who would have thought this even maybe 3 weeks ago with Dillingham's group? But just goes to show the job that he has done this year. When I look at the BYU side, can you get off the mat after losing one at home that quite frankly shouldn't have happened? You know, you had the fumbled pooch punt from Jalen Daniels. You throw a horrible red zone interception. I believe that one came in the first half by Retzloff, automatically giving away 3 or 7 points. It's just, can BYU create more turnovers? I'm just not so sure on the road, because this is a group and an offense in Arizona State that can really give you a bunch of different looks. I really like what Sam Leavitt has become. I was kind of skeptical about him going into the season, but now that his first season's under his belt, he really looks like he just gets comfortable with every single start that he gets on the next one. Jordan Tyson, the receiver for Arizona State's, led the country in yards since week 7. Saw that stat today on Twitter. And then obviously we know about Scatabo. Like, once you can throw it through the air, then you give it to the probably the best power back in all of college football, but definitely in the Big 12. So they just hit you with a bunch of different things offensively. And the defense hasn't been great, but it's aggressive. And it feels like a group that has been getting more turnovers in these last few weeks that have caused them to win these football games. And I think you can force BYU into those turnovers on the road. Close.
Muted.
No cigar.
Yeah, I'm trying to type in the chat to get some chats rolling. I'm trying to keep it all going. At
Mute button 2.
I know.
Boys 0.
And I'm usually the best.
We don't have a
at it,
hot
but
mic. We got a
screwed
hot
up
mute.
there. However, I agree with all those points, but let's talk about Sam Leavitt for a little bit. How impressive has this guy been that competed for the Michigan State job last year in a really weird spot? Coach leaves. Here comes the new guy. He wants to hit the transfer portal. He ends up at Arizona State with Jeff Sims as his backup, said to be competing for that job. And now here he is emerging with this 8-win Arizona State team with a chance to go to the Big 12 title. The dual threat quarterback playing with a ton of confidence right now. Maybe not jump off the page statistical guys on the outside, but he gets the most out of them because of how good that running game in Scatabo has been. So I really like this Arizona State offense. It's just, can they limit this BYU team who has just continued to win games that they were picked to lose in, even as a ranked team, even against unranked teams they were picked to lose. Vegas has shown BYU disrespect. Finally, everything catches up to them against a really talented, underperforming Kansas team. But in this spot, I think Arizona State fans are starting to buy back in. And when that place can get going, if you remember back in, 2018, 2017 against Oregon, when Oregon came in that place ranked in the top 10, that place can get going. And I think it's going to be a home field advantage. Yeah,
like
it's going to be
2004 Sun Devil Stadium, like those Arizona State teams.
Don't bring up the Jake the Snake 90s era Arizona State teams, or you're going to trigger my dad's fight or flight listening somewhere.
Iowa went down there a couple of times and hosted them early 2000s, and that was like ruckus stuff. Like, that's the Arizona State I need to see.
Yeah, maybe bring out the old Sparky logo like we're showing on the screen. Bring out those uniforms. Yep, Arizona State by 50 if they roll out in those. So you never know. But I really like Arizona State in this spot because of how consistent the offense has been and because of the confidence they're playing with right now. That place is going to be rocking. I love the Sun Devils. What do you think, JP?
I'm going to go back to the Sam Leavitt thing because I really liked the grab by Dillingham in the offseason. I felt like I wasn't, like Jake said, he had his thoughts.
Shout out Jake the Snake. This is Jake the Snake. It was brutal.
Like Jake said, like he had some, reservations about him and some thoughts. And I thought that was completely fair considering the place he was going. A program still trying to find its identity under a new head coach, but the guy's thrown 3 touchdowns in 3 consecutive games with 0 interceptions. They continually have proven that they're not a fluke 8-2. They're a good 8-2. Along with that, you kind of look at what they do well compared to what, BYU does well defensively. BYU's well-rounded defensively, but they've then shown in certain games to just get in shootouts out of nowhere, right? A big play here, a big play there, the inability to get off the field there. And they've been good at it. The pass defense is what's been best for BYU, in my opinion. Numbers base will kind of tell you the same thing or the opposite. But I feel like when they really slow teams down on the run game, they get better and better in the pass because that BYU secondary has gotten better. And on the flip side, like BYU might have a chance to make some plays downfield with Retzloff and these receivers because they've done it all year against just about anybody, it feels. They've kind of stifled a couple weeks here. But Arizona State is good defensively. They're very good against the run. They obviously see a ton of teams throw the ball a ton against them. They're pretty good at keeping things in front of them. But when you bring in, I think this is a kind of a step up in most cases of what Arizona State's seen on the edge, and a better quarterback who's not, really scared to just sling it around. And so that's the dangerous part, I think, is if he's slinging it around and hitting his throws, it's good. Like they're going to be very good. So BYU in a spot where it feels like can you escape another one? That's all I'm saying. Like it's as simple as that. Like you're a good team, but you continually stay in these tight games when you don't need to be. You need to now escape another one coming off, a loss that you feel like you shouldn't have had.
All right, Reese, give us your thoughts and break down this matchup.
I mean, you look at Arizona State's schedules, all the wins they have, like they're competitive football games, rather than the Oklahoma State game they won by 3 scores. But everything is around a touchdown, if not around 10. So I mean, getting them at home, I feel like this is a huge help for them. But I think BYU, I mean, if you really want to prove what your team is about, like this is a game was like you went on the road and you beat a ranked team in their place. Like this is a statement when you can get to try to get yourself into that college football argument. If you drop it, I think your case goes down pretty quick. Kansas is playing better football lately. We've seen it. But I mean, that loss last week looks a little rougher, I think, especially with that offense that's averaging about 32 a game, only going and scoring 14. So I can think it shows there are weaknesses to that football team. They got to go in here. They got to be successful. Arizona State, you guys talk about Sam Levitt, Scatterbo, all those guys. I think offensively, they're going to have all the firepower to get them going. BYU's got to show up in there defensively a little more, but I lean the Sun Devils in this spot. I just think we talk about the swing schedule and all that stuff, but I just lean an Arizona State team that's playing very well right now.
That's a fair point to make. I was looking at Arizona State's schedule. You got to give them a little credit there too, because you have some teams that play really bad teams throughout the preseason or the early season. But Mississippi State on your schedule, when they scheduled that game, Mississippi State wasn't as bad as they're viewed now and rebuilding like they are. But to play a talented Texas State team on the road like they did, like they're a little bit more battle tested than I think the rest of the country because of that non-con. What were you going to say, JP?
I was just going to say this game's kind of a travesty at 2:30.
Yeah, it should be night.
Yeah, that just Tempe doesn't scream day games to me.
This is the perfect build for those 9:15 slots that these teams both always have. This is a perfect 9:15 kick.
I agree.
For these two teams.
I think this is actually a 12:30 game their time because they don't do daylight savings.
Yeah, but it's only an hour back now in Arizona, so it's
but you don't do.
Confused me over there.
But they don't do daylight savings
Central time. We're talking about Central Time. It's Central
Time. I know.
It's night.
It's not
night.
It's an early kick for them. They're kind of rolling around.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks.
Yeah, but let me be very clear here, Jake. I was just in Arizona. It's an hour back right now. It's not the 2 hours like it normally is because we flipped our clocks. Now it's only an hour difference. So it's 1:30 kick.
Oh, so it's the opposite.
Yes.
What?
So it's not 2 hours back when we flip our clocks.
So the next time
the 2 is 1.
All backwards.
Yep. -2 -1 1:30 kick. Book it. All right. That is Arizona State and BYU. Let's go roundtable style score predictions. Who wins? Who covers? We talked a lot about the Sun Devils. You got them winning, Jake?
Yeah, I think they're just playing their best football right now. Although this feels like the best passing quarterback that they've seen probably in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So that's an interesting factor. But I'm saying beat Arizona State.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Their best.
I just want to throw his name out there. Keep his NIL money rolling in Nebraska.
They're
by
one
the
Jeff
combo.
Hey, Sam Levitt's not hurting that Cincinnati game. This team could be one loss. But no, I like Arizona State in this one. I do think like that place is going to be rocking. And I do think they're going to come out and punch BYU in the mouth.
I love that. All right. So Arizona State to win and cover, Jake. Put me on that team as well. I think this is the time for the Sun Devils to backdoor their way, hopefully, into the Big 12 title. That's my opinion as a de facto fan, but this offense has been so impressive. I'm so impressed with what Kenny Dillingham's done with this squad and what they've turned them into. I think they're going to be successful for a long time if they can win games like this and keep that fan base invested. I think they do so this weekend and win and cover JP.
Reese, where are you going?
He didn't ask me. He asked you, Jordan.
That's fine. I got to make up ground on the ATS board. I'm not confident in it, but I'll go BYU here.
All right, so BYU to cover and win, or do you think it could be maybe a 1 point Arizona State win?
I'll take a win as well. Why not?
All right,
3 points. I got to make up ground on the board.
So you're making a 2-2 split, Reese, or are you going to ride with the Sun Devils?
I'm going with the Sun Devils. They're going to win and they're going to cover.
All right, I like it. However, I've been on the winning side of betting BYU when they're picked as a higher ranked team, as an underdog on the road. I don't think that happens this week. Let's pray it doesn't happen for the sake of us three, and then JP can benefit from it if it does. But that is the matchup in the Big 12. We will get to talk on the Big 12 again later. But for now, let's talk about some people that are going to serve our country. Let's talk Army, a highly ranked college football playoff chasing group of 5 team, visiting Yankee Stadium at a neutral site to play Notre Dame. JP, do your plug.
Stop playing these fucking games at baseball stadiums or
Stop playing them.
Stop playing them.
Play the game.
How about Notre Dame goes and plays a road game, Jacob? How about that? What if we didn't play it at Purdue as our only true road game? Soft asses.
I know I made the background for the show tonight, and if you can't see it, which you can't see it majority of the time, but I still make it branded. It's Army Stadium with like Apache helicopters flying above it. It's badass. But then I saw that this game was at Yankee Stadium, and I was like, well, that's kind of a letdown because that place would have been awesome to watch this game in. However, neutral site game, Notre Dame, Army, Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Notre Dame's at over a 2-touchdown favorite. Jake, break this one down from the top for us.
Yeah, this one. You have 2 teams who have a ton to play for, a lot in the college football playoff implications, and both are still playing really good football, but it's just a matter of, can this service academy keep up with a Notre Dame team that's playing really good right now? Notre Dame's covered 6 games in a row. This defense hasn't given up more than 14 points in 6 weeks. You got to feel like Army went back on the film and watched the Navy game, right? And just like what not to do, right? And like a whole list of what not to do. And it just felt like Navy was so sped up when they played Notre Dame because Notre Dame has that defense. I think they have a top 5 defense in college football. I think this defense is really good. And they've still had a ton of injuries they've had to deal with, like on the defensive line. Something feels off with Army for me too. Like, since Bryson Daly didn't play in that Air Force game a couple of weeks ago when he was like sick or injured, I don't know. It was weird and it doesn't feel the same. They very much could have lost that North Texas game, not for Chandler Morris throwing 2 just egregious red zone picks.
All right.
Roll me, human.
This seems really outmatched here. But then again, if Army's going to have success, Notre Dame was 2 for 15 on 3rd down last week. They like 3rd down, pass the sticks. Not a good football team right now. So if you get him in that situation, got to get him off the field.
It's funny you mentioned the North Texas game, Jake, because my first thought when looking at Army is, their defense has been so just dismantling teams this year. But a lot of that is because of their play style and the way they stay on the field. I mean, they put together a quarter-long drive against North Texas and kept that offense off the field. However, you're playing a defense at Notre Dame who, even banged up, is an elite unit. So if you get into that game, you're not going to give your offense enough time against a pretty good bend, don't break defense where you're not going to come away with points majority of the time. And then Notre Dame can just win a slow-paced, close one off of 4 field goals and just beat you because their defense is as elite as yours. But Army only putting up 14, even with those turnovers against North Texas. And I get they put together those long drives, but North Texas fired the defensive coordinator 2 weeks ago, and it's week 13. It's the worst defense in college football, and you put up 14 points when he was on the sideline. That's a glaring red flag for me. And the way Notre Dame's been just crushing teams like a Florida State 2 weeks ago, that 52-3 game, the way their offense has been rolling, I think this is a spot where Notre Dame dismantles some more of our troops, our future troops, unfortunately. But I just think there's too much question marks around whether or not Army's offense can do enough and their defense can step up against a power 4 team that's playing as well as Notre Dame is. JP, sorry.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to kind of add to this is, it was seen as Army is the better fit to kind of battle with this Notre Dame team. I don't think when that game was going on, we'd see Notre Dame kind of take off to another level that we hadn't seen previously in the year. For me here, obviously, Navy told you everything not to do, like Jake said. The turnovers in that game they were out of the game quick. The fumbles, the missed
6
pitches,
of them, I think, right?
Yeah, just the field position itself took them out of that game. Don't expect Army to do that. But then again, like Notre Dame's seen the option this year. They've seen it a ton anyway. They play the service academies all the time. If Riley Leonard is going to sling it around, I don't really see a spot where Army stays in this without getting something to go their way. You know, whether that's a couple turnovers or whether that is the long sustained drives, or a couple of trick plays, play action, double pass, something up the sleeve of the cadets here that could really keep them in this one. So I think Notre Dame wins this one. I think they win it by about 21, but I don't think it feels like a blowout. You know what I mean? I feel like it just feels slow paced and they just gradually move away from Army as the time goes.
The way Army plays, that's an incredibly safe thing to say and not shocking. If you never watched them, watch how methodical this offense is going to move down the field when they can against the Notre Dame team. But Reese, what do you think on this matchup? Do you think your boys can come through?
Your boys.
I don't throw out the record books, whatever. This is Army. This is the biggest game on their schedule. Boa constrictor offense. They're not going to give up that many. 6 turnovers. You think we're Navy? There's a reason why we have different names because we're better than them. Go Army, beat Navy. You're not going to turn the ball 6 times on the road, neutral site. That's cool. It's in New York Stadium, whatever. I don't think either team's Friday that's going to be there.
You going, Reese?
No, can't make that trip down there. We got Syracuse and UConn this weekend. I think I'm going to try to get down there for.
There we go.
We got a big one there to cash you over in 7.5. So
you find me another college football show where one of the people on the show is going to Syracuse and UConn this weekend. You cannot. You cannot.
But yeah, in this one, you look at it. It's also like Riley Leonard. Like ever since the loss in early Illinois, like Notre Dame's looked extremely well. But we've seen Riley Leonard in the past. Like he can look phenomenal, and he can have those bad days too, where you just got to think. Hopefully, Army can find a way to force some turnovers in here. You talked about before. Like they had a drive where they ate up an entire clock in a quarter. So it's like they're gonna do something similar. They're able to be successful. Their defense is solid, but I think it's just a huge game for the Black Knights. I think for them to win this game would be very, very surprising. But I'm gonna take the Black Knights. I'm gonna take Army. I'm gonna take them to at least cover. I think Notre Dame's gonna win the football game, but give me Army to cover.
It would be so crazy how much different I would feel about this Notre Dame team if they would have played within 10 points of Florida State or 10 points of any of their last 5 to 10 opponents. Like they've just been dismantling teams. That confidence has got to stay rolling in my mind. But Jake, lead us off. Who wins? Who covers Notre Dame Army, Yankee Stadium?
Yeah, it just feels like to me, this is one team in the top 10, top 15, whatever you want to call it, that is just ready to play a service academy. Like they know what to expect. JP said, you've seen it before. They play service academies all the time, and they're just playing such good football right now. And Leonard has been better. I don't even think it's close. I'm laying it with Navy. I'm laying it with Notre Dame, and I think it's probably like 35-3, honestly.
All right. I like that. I don't think Army's offense is going to do a lot. I think it's going to be low scoring because of the methodical play style on both sides. I think Notre Dame will adapt it a little bit to kind of slow the game down because they know they can just simply out talent this Army team and what they've shown. I think it's going to be like a 27-9, 27-10 on the tops, maybe even 24-3. But I like Notre Dame to roll and cover in this spot against Army. JP.
Yeah, I'll go 31-13. Notre Dame here just methodically pulls away from them. I don't think they are up 20 at half or anything like that. I think it just slowly builds.
All right. That's like 3 or 4 uses of the word methodical. So shout out to us. Great vocabulary. Reese rounded out. Who wins? Who covers? Sounds like you're going Army.
Yeah, let's go Notre Dame 24, Army 13.
Okay, so Army covering the number on that one, but 3 of us on Notre Dame to win and cover. That's going to be a fun matchup. Check that one out on NBC, 6 p.m. or over on Peacock if you're a loser. Stop putting games on that channel. Let's move it back to the Big 12. Let's go to Kansas and Colorado. Before we break this one down, let's stop and give you a second to hit the like button right now. Drop a comment, your score predictions, any thoughts on the Week 13 slate. We appreciate you being here and might as well click that subscribe button. We love you. All right, let's talk about the Buffs visiting the red-hot Jayhawks coming off wins against Iowa State, then last week against BYU. How fun is this one going to be? Jake,
Top
break this
contenders
one
go to
down.
die.
This is the place. Go to Arrowhead Stadium where they're going to
Arrowhead
rip that
Stadium?
field up for the Chiefs. I don't know if you guys have seen that little side note. Chiefs fans, ones I've talked to in person, are just pissed that Kansas keeps playing there because they are destroying that grass. And then on Sunday, it's terrible for the Chiefs. So
Do not
shocking.
care what the Chief fan thinks.
I was going to say that seems to not hinder them. They haven't lost it at home yet. But, I mean, I heard, saw on Twitter, there could be 55,000 at this game. That's what they're expecting. I don't know if that's,
That'd be shocking.
you know, I don't know if that's a lot of Colorado fake fans, but nonetheless, you know, should be their most attended game at Arrowhead this year. And I think it's well deserved because this one it's really going to be fun. The thing for me, this feels like two of the most talented offenses in this conference. Kansas hasn't shown it at times this year, but just loaded with seniors, loaded with veteran guys that you're figuring it out. Like they're playing their best football in November for a reason. Both D lines have been sneaky good. I really want to see the cornerbacks at Kansas, Dotson and Kobe Bryant versus, you know, Travis Hunter, Will Shepard, LaJohntay Wester. Kobe Bryant had a couple of comments that he's looking forward to Travis Hunter this weekend. He likes to
Careful
talk,
what you wish
but
for.
yeah, you know, kudos to the guy. You want confidence out of the guy. Here's the problem with this for me is Colorado's defense is really good. They have some of the best sack numbers. Colorado's defensive
Really
line,
good?
sorry. Colorado's
thank
defensive
you.
line has been really good. Thank you.
Right.
They have,
That's a fact.
you know, they're like top 20 in sacks this year. And that's been Daniels' issue is when he does face a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
And for some reason, BYU didn't get after it last week like I kind of thought they would. So maybe they protect Daniels well again this week. But I really like this Colorado defensive line. Whatever Warren Sapp's doing with his crazy mohawk, like whatever he's convincing them to do to get after the quarterback, it's working. And I think it's going to get back to Daniels again this weekend.
That's a good place to break this one down. I'll let JP go first, and then I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah, my whole thing with this one is that it's two teams with a lot of confidence, and I think that's dangerous because one of them's going to end up getting a little overconfident or feel like they need to make a big play when it's not necessarily possible. And I trust Shedeur not to be that guy in this situation. So I like Colorado in this spot. But, you know, if Jalen's going to be good again and continue kind of the success, one thing he's going to, like I said, worry about is trying to be superhero and trying to sling it around the yard and be, you know, this gunslinger that he hasn't been in his career. He's good, you know, when he has guys open and when he has elite receivers. He doesn't have those same elite receivers. You know, with what Colorado does, I don't feel like he's going to have the time a lot with what Jake was saying to make that play downfield. I think Kansas is kind of riding a high on maybe, you know, getting an Iowa State team at the wrong time. They got a BYU team in just a mucky, gross Provo game. Mm-hmm. And now you come back and you're feeling good and you're like, okay, can I play Dragon Slayer for the third week in a row? And I just think this Colorado team is maybe in a better spot than the two previous teams that they've seen. So Colorado has the better weapons. They have the better receiving core. They have the better quarterback. I'm not going to say they have the better offensive line, but they definitely have the better defensive line. If Kansas stays in this one, it's a shootout because if Colorado can show up defensively on the front four and kind of wreck the run game and not let Devin Neal get going and make sure Jalen Daniels is under pressure, try having to make big plays early in that one, mm-hmm. I think it just gets out of hand because I really do trust Shedeur to not make dumb mistakes and turn the ball over as he's done throughout his entire career.
That's fair to say. I think when you're talking about Shedeur, another thing you got to give Colorado credit for is how much they've improved in the offensive line unit, whether that be penalties. They still go up their sacks here and there, but as consistent as the group did last year or early in this season, absolutely not. They have to limit talented but yet staggered Kansas defensive line in this game. But if you're giving the defensive line edge, you got to give it to Colorado and how good that defense has been stopping the run. They've been so good up front. I think when you talk about coordinators of the year, which we talked about in the group chat a few times, Robert Livingston's got to be in the question there, right? Because how far did this Colorado defense knock this team back in a 4-8 season? And all of a sudden they turn around, 8-win team, 9-win team on the lookout here as a favorite on the road against a team coming off 2 top 25 wins. It's an impressive unit, an impressive turnaround. I really like this Colorado defense. I don't know if Kansas's offensive outside weapons will be enough to stay competitive in this game, or if their defensive backs can limit the multitudes of talent they have. LaJohntay Wester, Will Shepard, Those two guys are not named Travis Hunter, and you got to guard them too. Not to mention Jimmy Horn, who hasn't been in the active as of late, but another talented receiver. So is there too many versus the quality of Kansas's defensive backs? That's what it comes down to for me. So I think Colorado is going to get their points. Kansas won't be able to put up 45 like they did on an impressive Iowa State defense. So give me the Buffs on the road. This is like the 5th or 6th time I picked them this year. See these helmets back here? They're going to start lighting on fire if I keep doing it. But this is a big spot for Colorado, and I think they get it done on the road. But it's going to be close. It's going to be close, and the spread's in a good spot. Reese.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get the same sort of defense you got out of Kansas last week. We're going to get 14 to a BYU team that's pretty solid. I think Colorado's going to get theirs. You look at their schedule so far, they've only scored less than 4 touchdowns in one game. That was on the road at Nebraska, which they looked phenomenal. They just struggled in that game. But I think this Colorado offense is just going to have a lot more going for them in this spot. In there, I think it's kind of going to be cool for those guys to play in that spot too. But I think that Colorado's offense is going to have way more going for it. Partially words out of my mouth. Robert Libson has done a hell of a job over there. They haven't given up, I think, more than 30, 35, more than like once or twice looking at it. I think I just did a brief glance. Like I just don't know if they're going to give up that many. Jalen Daniels got to play out of his mind, I think, to kind of keep them in this game. Just Shedeur, and the thing about Shedeur too, that the guy doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't make that many bad inadvertent throws. The guy does what he's good at. There's a reason why he's going to be a top draft pick. So, yeah, I'm confident with Colorado in this spot going on the road. I think they'll find a way to win this one.
Elite comment came through as you were breaking that one down. Rock Chalk Ralphie in his stupid bison face. I like that. I think Ralphie's an overhyped mascot. Let's just throw that out there right now. That big dumbass running across the field into the cage. Not as exciting as it seemed, especially in person. I'm just throwing that out there. Let's go round table style.
What if there's bias in that one?
Yeah, there is. It comes out. We're fans of the game. Buffs, Jayhawks. Who wins? Who covers? Jake, lead it off.
I'm sick of taking the majority picks with you guys, but the way Reese was talking, I already know where he's going with this one. Emotional hedge. I'm going to take Colorado. Iowa State needs Kansas to win this to regain its position, but we'll see.
Huh?
No confidence out of Colorado?
Kansas.
No,
you have no confidence in Kansas.
You need a little JP.
No, not really.
JP thought the Clones were going 12-0.
Not really. I do not have confidence in Kansas.
That's fair.
One. You made a good point. I do think they did get lucky with some bounces last week and then caught Iowa State in a good spot 2 weeks ago.
They sure did. But all right, there's a Colorado pick. I'm on that as well. As I said, I like the Buffs to win and cover in this spot. I think it's going to be within a touchdown game because I do think Kansas is going to get their points. I just don't think they can keep up with the plethora of weapons that the Buffs have. JP.
Yeah, LeJohntay West are one of the more underrated receivers in the country right now, and just playmakers in general. The Buffalo is my favorite animal. I'll take Colorado, lay the 2.5. I think they win by like 14.
All right. Heavy on the Buffs.
Huh?
So far, unanimous pick, Reese. You're with us?
Yep, go Buffs.
All right, I love it. If there's any school, I'd be cool with that happening too. Buffs unanimously across the board, rock chalk. All right, with that, let's move it down the line because we got a couple more games to preview nonetheless. This one will be shorter, but let's go to let's skip down the line and finish with Ole Miss, Florida. JP, let's go to Minnesota and Penn State. This one snuck on the list, but Minnesota's overachieved the entire season and could make things interesting in Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis on Saturday afternoon. Break this one down for us, Jake. You put it on there, so I want to hear your thoughts, Penn State, Minnesota, for this matchup. Or JP did, sorry.
I definitely did. I definitely did.
That's it. I didn't.
I have it in there for a couple reasons. Mostly because I think Minnesota's kind of found their groove lately. A loss to Rutgers doesn't really prove that in some ways, but I do think they found their identity again, and Rosmer's been a lot better as the year's gone on. Penn State is in here because if Penn State continues to fool around in some ways, like this is a chance for you to really slip up and not be paying attention and then end up 10-2 and you're not really sure if you're going to get the playoff, right? Even if this thing's 3.7 points, it starts to raise questions. If we're going to give the treatment of, you're playing teams close and barely beating them, to certain teams, we need to give it to Penn State. We need to give it to, other teams around the country because I feel like that obviously hasn't been equal throughout it all. Minnesota plays good defense. They're very much like Penn State in what they're trying to do right now. Now, you would obviously say Penn State's a lot more talented in the running back room. They've shown to be better in the quarterback room with Aller and pieces. the defense is elite. And that's where the issue comes from Minnesota. But at 12.5 with at home at 230, like I've seen stranger things in the Big Ten, and this one wouldn't shock me too much if Minnesota found a way to make this a game late. So can Minnesota really find a way to sustain drive, stay on the field on third down, make sure that the run game for Penn State doesn't just eat them alive and keep their defense on the field? It's just one of those things I truly feel just a little eerie. Like I'd put this on a higher upset scare meter than I would in normal years, because I just think Penn State, they need to win this game big. And I think Minnesota is just kind of lurking there, with a chance to bite at someone big here.
When I saw this one on the list for breakdowns, my nose started tickling as well. I think that's that Big Ten fandom realizing kind of the spot that Penn State's going into here with an overachieving Minnesota team. How good has the defensive backfield been for Minnesota this year and coming through in clutch situations? And look at Penn State. JP, you mentioned they've been played in close games, but you go on the road at Wisconsin. Wisconsin was in that fight. It took 2 bad lock turnovers for Penn State to break away from it and only win by 13, 14 points. That's what the spread is here. This Minnesota team has been pesky. They beat a USC team by the same amount Penn State beat them. Look at USC. They've fallen down the ladder since that Penn State game. So is that as impressive as a win as it was for Penn State? Probably not. So there is definitely a narrative here that Minnesota fits to be in this game competitive late. 12.5 point spread is simply because of the powerhouse that Penn State is in the past and what you've heard from them, and they're a playoff daunted team. But this Minnesota team is well coached. They're overperforming for what anybody thought they would, and their young, talented defensive backfield will keep them in this game. I like Minnesota to cover the number here. What do you think, Jake?
It's just a weird spot. I kind of agree with whatever you guys are saying, but
whatever.
Whatever wasn't the right word.
I zoned out.
I think I've used that word before on you guys, and I completely was listening to what you were saying. So wrong use of words there. But no, I just don't know if they can't get the run game going with Taylor. Like, is Brosma really going to win you this football game? I just don't see it. But you got to get up early on Penn State if you're Minnesota here, because also on the other side, I would force Drew Aller to try and come back and get him to throw a bunch too. But this just feels like a spot where Penn State thrives on these kind of teams that don't have like elite dudes on offense, but like they just kind of have a few good guys. I think I referred to it as like the Illinois game. Illinois got good receivers. I like the quarterback Altmaier, but like, it's not elite. I don't think he's going to get by this Penn State defense. But isn't this like they lost one of these road trips to Minneapolis? Was that was it 2019?
It was kicking off the season in 2021, I believe. Right? It was the first game. Yeah, it was the first game because I remember taking Penn State and Minnesota, I believe, won late in the game.
I'm pretty sure Minnesota played Ohio State early in that year.
No, that was 2019. Minnesota opens up the season almost every year. It's actually shocking. Go back and look at it. They opened up week 0 against Nebraska on a Thursday night. Penn State one of the years, because I remember Gus Johnson calling it. And then Ohio State that one year where we all made the bet back in the It's Just Money days of getting the state of Minnesota tattooed on our ass. What do you think, Reese?
I was going to say, fact check Parksy, I hate to do it, but it was 2021 because that was like the last bet that I put in before I went to basic training. I took Ohio State like first half, didn't even hit.
That was the one
that was
the bets from
Minnesota,
all of us.
State,
Was
that was
like
the one we all
the year after.
That was just a random one that I took. That was like the last.
That was Stroud's
2021.
first start, right? Like Stroud's first ever start.
That was the game
yeah.
where Park said he would tattoo the state of Minnesota on his ass if Minnesota won that game, and they got
they were competitive.
Close. And then Mohamed
It was close.
Ibrahim blew out his Achilles.
Yeah, they were up on. I think they were up.
Yeah,
first
that's
half.
right. Mo Ibrahim.
Yeah.
But you look at this spot. I just think. I mean, PJ Fleck's name isn't Ryan Day or Jim Harbaugh, so I think James Franklin's pretty successful against guys without
Don't even
that
put him
name.
on the list.
So I just think they go in there, they handle us. The number being what it is, too, I think makes it interesting. Like Minnesota could make it ugly and keep them around, but I don't know if they'll go win this ball game. They might keep it within 10 or 14, but I don't know if it ever gets within a touchdown. I just think Penn State goes in there and they'll win this one.
All right, there it is. Let's go roundtable style. Pick this one quickly. JP, lead it off.
I got to make up ground. I'll take Minnesota. Not confident in it.
Okay, Minnesota. I
gotta
like
make up
Minnesota
ground.
against the spread.
Things
Penn
gotta
State to
happen.
win the game. I think it's going to be like a 24-13 style game. I don't know if Minnesota can do enough with their weapons, and
That
they're
would
pretty
be a cover.
non-existent, but they're so good on defense. Absolutely, that's a cover from the Gophers. Jake.
One of these games, where either this game or the game we'll cover next, big spreads. I think one of them gets the upset outright. I don't see it being this one. I like Penn State winning, and I'll lay the points on the road.
Lay them.
Okay, Reese, finalize
Hold
it
me
up.
down with Schaefer.
Lay it.
31-13.
Okay, so 2 on Penn State, 2 on Minnesota against the spread. We'll see how that one plays out. I fact-checked myself. I flipped them. 2019, Penn State, Minnesota, week 1. Great matchup. Minnesota won that game 31-26.
Gotcha.
So maybe it's that similar spot. All right, let's move it down the line. Let's wrap things up with the SEC. We haven't talked about them tonight. We're probably the only college football show that's only going to cover one of their games. Let's talk a little pesky one. Ole Miss visiting the Florida Gators, coming off a massive win against LSU. This Florida team's kind of hitting their stride, overperforming for what teams thought they were going to do, or people thought they were going to do with the schedule they had. The Swamp will be rocking at 11 a.m. Ole Miss is an 11-point favorite. Let's break it down from the top. JP, you do it.
I was going to let Jake do it because he really wanted to cover this game. So
All
I'll
right,
be
go
quick
ahead,
with
Jake.
mine. I'll be quick, Jake. I'll just say
He's got to be
this
quick,
is
Jacob.
yeah, I swear I'll be fast.
Community.
Ole Miss has to win this game, and it feels like they're just not really paying attention to what Florida's going to do right now. That's just the pure vibes.
Yeah, the vibes on this one is like you had the week to soak in the Georgia game. How do you respond? Again, like, can Florida really get 7 sacks on Jackson Dart like they did against LSU? I don't necessarily see it, and I really worry about the Florida offensive line versus that Ole Miss defensive line.
Yep.
I just think they're going to get after him, but Florida's playing good football, and it's a tough spot in the Swamp. You know, teams have struggled to go down there and come out with victories this year, outside of maybe like Miami early in the year or A&M in September. So like they've been playing good football in October and November. So it's hard to count them out in this spot. And it's just like, it's weird November football, man. Ole Miss needs to win out. They got to win all of these games. This is the first time you're going to make the playoff. Like, same with Penn State. Like, that's why we wanted to cover both these games at the end. Like, fourth quarter comes around. It's single digit. It's a 1-touchdown game. Both of these two teams need to make the playoff. Their coaches are like, this is what the 12-team playoff's for. Don't choke it away, Franklin. Don't choke it away, Kiffin. You can't count it out. You never know what's going to happen.
Those are fair points to make. I think I look back on Ole Miss's season, and you can't take too much out of all their losses away because of how the games went. But you can take away when Florida's really been bad. And when they were bad early in the year, you get beat by a Cam Ward Miami team who turns out to be an obvious ACC contender, one of the better teams in the country, struggles on defense, however. But look at the quarterback play. Can Jackson Dart play similar to, can Nussmeier play similar to Jackson Dart? Can other teams in the SEC quarterback play similar to Jackson Dart? No, I would compare him closer to a Cam Ward style quarterback with his abilities. That's where Florida struggled against. I think Jackson Dart and his experience is the difference in this game. I like Ole Miss on the road. The line is in a weird spot. I think a 10-point win wouldn't shock me, but I think it's going to be by more than one score. So I like Ole Miss in this spot and their offensive firepower. I think it kind of resembles Miami, and I don't know if they can get themselves up enough to match the confidence of a team that just beat Georgia for the first time in forever. So I like Ole Miss in this spot. What do you think, Reese?
Yeah, you talk about, Florida got the 7 sacks against LSU, and can they repeat that? LSU has one of the best offensive lines in the country. Like, going into the year, I previewed them and I got chewed out by somebody for not talking about that. So, can they repeat that success? Yeah, that's tough. But then you
had
look
to have
at
been JP.
No, I think it was some random comment on some.
It was in the comments.
It was some comment guy got me. Shout out that guy. Hold me accountable. Thank you. But Ole Miss, that defensive line against Florida's offensive line, you lean them in this spot too. It is SEC. This is a battle. But, Tom Petty won't back down. Dude, DJ Lagway, like, this Florida team, like, if they win this game and they go 7-5, man, like, I don't think we talk about this Florida team, what they dealt with this year. Like, them to win this game, I think would be a surprise. But I think they're going to keep this thing competitive. Like, this is a spot where people go in there. And Ole Miss got their huge win against Georgia. That's huge. But, like, there's always a spot where this team is usually going to slip up some random game too. And, like, if they don't in this spot, then okay, cool. Maybe Lane Kiffin, this team is turning the corner. But I think this is a spot too where it's like, this just seems like a spot where an Ole Miss team might go in. and maybe look ahead or slip some up here. But I'm going to take Ole Miss to win this game, but I think Florida will cover it.
All right, there it is. Let's go roundtable style. Quickly give your score prediction. Who wins, who covers, just to recap everything. JP.
I'm going to go with Florida in the points. Ole Miss will win outright, though. Just vibes, and I'm going to take the 10.5 points, and the team is feeling good about themselves.
All right, I'm going to roll with the Rebels. Give me Lane Kiffin's group to win and cover on the road. I think Jackson Dart's the difference maker, as I said, and Ole Miss rolls the Gators to spoil the excitement coming off the LSU win. Jake.
Might as well just take all the favorites this week. Give me Ole Miss. Lay them on the road. One of these, Penn State or Ole Miss, one of them is going to win by 20.
All right, fair enough. That's a fair bet. Obviously, we got Reese's pick. Reese is on the Gators to cover, but Ole Miss to win, right?
Vibe check.
Check. Oh, okay, there it is. That wraps up all of our individual Week 13 previews. Let's go into the betting segments to wrap up tonight's show. Our G5 game of the week, quickly mentioned. You can view it live on YouTube tomorrow. Jacksonville State. Sorry, we keep doing that. Jacksonville State. You did it too. Look at you. I remember. Jacksonville State
put them up.
Versus Sam Houston State is the group of 5 game of the week. So we're going to preview that one fully and break that one down. Check it out on YouTube live tomorrow. Hit that like button on that video. Shout out to the G5. We cover you here 134 through 134 covered on PTFS. We love you. All right, let's go to the betting segments. Let's lead it off with the Dog's Dog. Jake, give us what?
Speaking in the betting segment, Justin in the comments, he wants Reese to talk about.
He covered it.
UConn.
I know.
Justin, I covered it before. This is the weekend, brother. We got UConn at home. I will be down there cheering for you, brother.
JT, you got to dial it in, man. He already said that. UConn, Syracuse, he's going to be in attendance. That's a crazy game to go to. I love that. Well, let's go into the Dog's Dog. Jake, lead us off betting segment.
Dog's Dog is Dog's Dog. How about UConn? We could take the points. UConn this weekend. No,
do it.
I'm kidding. I'm going to be public enemy number 1 on this podcast. And since you guys don't want to put rules on the Dog's Dog and anything goes, I'll just take the 2.5 with Wisconsin on the road this weekend. Vibes check, not good. And vibes check is not good. And I'm just going to take, if it's a 1-score game, I'm going to take the Badgers in this situation.
That's fucking bitch. What a fucking loser move. Out of all the 2.5 point spreads.
Look that out.
Well, actually,
Parks, you'd have been pissed because my second option was going to be East Carolina at North Texas this weekend. So
I would have hurt my feelings significantly less, Jake.
Utah.
Would have hurt my feelings significantly less.
I thought you bleed green here. I thought you bleed green.
I do bleed mean green, but not enough to hurt my feelings if you bet against them because of how bad their defense is. But Nebraska, this is the week, bitch. Sorry, I hope it is. The confidence. You caught me good. You got to ask me this Sunday night. Ask me Sunday night, then I'll give you the full. I'm ready to put a Glock in my mouth breakdown. Jeez. But when it gets to Wednesday, everything cleans out. So I like the Skurs this weekend, and I didn't last weekend. I'm realistic about it. But all right, JP, give us your Dog's Dog underdog of the week.
I'll take Florida. Double-digit underdog. I'll take Florida.
All right. Sure you don't want UMass?
Do not
42.
Actually.
42.
Didn't they just fire their head coach?
And even more.
They did fire
better
their head
reason.
Coach.
Better
did you see the
him.
fired head coach bowl? That's Charlotte plays this weekend, and they play FAU. Both.
Tom Herman and Biff Poggi fired.
Ray Lewis is about to be head coach at FAU. See that?
That ain't happening.
He's a top contender.
It's not happening.
That would be stunning. But all right, Reese, give us your Dog's Dog. Who is the underdog of the week to bet this week?
JP has took mine, so I'm going to go alternate here. Let's go Arizona plus 11.5 on the road at Fort Worth.
Cool.
That is a
I had to adapt.
Pick.
I had to adapt.
I have Arizona mentioned. Somebody out there just pointed when Arizona mentioned because they do not get talked about for good reason.
I'm glad, Reese. I'm just glad you had a backup plan. We don't usually have backup plans around here. So
I adapted.
Kudos to you.
I'm going to take my Dog's Dog. This isn't greasy, but it's one we already broke down. Give me Indiana plus the 13.5 on the road at Ohio State. I think the offense is too much to keep them in this game. 10-point win is entirely on the table for Ohio State, but I think they cover the number in a big spot with the talent they have. So I like the Hoosiers in that spot. Best bets of the weekend. Let's kick it back to JP to lead this one off.
Yeah, I was going between two. I've had success with one, but I'm thinking I just kind of make this a little bit of a battle here because I'll take Nebraska than 2.5 at home. You say vibes check.
Ball knower.
You say vibes check. I'm looking at a Wisconsin team that's still trying to figure
Learn
out
ball, Jake.
Wait.
Learn
You're
ball.
talking. Oh, Wisconsin just fired their offensive coordinator. Oh, I'm sorry. What happened to the team that they're playing? What did they do?
Nebraska's got a week
life.
under the belt, and we didn't fire him. He's just over in the other room.
They picked up Dana Holgerson from the Dallas strip club.
I'm just saying,
I'm
not
Dana
ready.
Holgerson was an analyst in the Big 12, bitch. Learn Big 12 football. Learn
I'm
ball,
not.
Jake.
I
JP,
said
great
Dallas.
pick.
He was in TCU, wasn't he? That's in Dallas.
It isn't Dallas.
Great pick, George. Don't.
I'm not
listen
ready
anything
to
you say.
take Wisconsin in any scenario.
Right here. This is my guy right here. GA come in. Holgerson for the win. Sucker. That's correct. Holgerson, he's got the vibes. He's going to get this group right. I love JP's pick. Reese, give us your best bet of the weekend.
Oh
I don't think
Little
he's muted,
cutout. He's not even on mute. It's just they
Yeah.
don't get any signal.
just
We
can't
gotta
hear 'em.
get a better Wi-Fi for our armed troops. I just don't understand it. But let's go to Jake first,
Reese,
and then we'll go back to Reese.
Sign language. What are you picking?
Yeah, put it up on the screen, Reese. Who is it? No, we can't hear you. Let's go to Jake.
I will take this because I've already put money on it. We'll go Texas Tech minus the
Not bad.
3.5 with Oklahoma State.
It's fair.
It's
Okay,
just
that's
I
a
don't
very
I
fair
don't
pick.
know how that spread can be so close. I don't get it. I get like Oklahoma or Texas Tech doesn't have a good defense, but like what
Mhm.
offensively has even Oklahoma State shown you to think that they are going to get off the mat?
They look
like
sharp.
That game 2 weeks ago against TCU was one of the most disgusting things I've ever watched. And yeah, I think Texas Tech still got bowl eligibility. They got things to play for, so I'm taking them.
I'm going to take a Reese G5 game for my best bet while Reese loads back in. But give me Bowling Green minus the 12 on the road at Ball State. Ball State, bad football team, also in the coach firing realm. Go ahead, Jake. I see a little chime in there.
Only MAC game getting played on Saturday. It's kind of bizarre.
That is insanely bizarre. But
Is
give me
Ohio
Bowling Green.
about to
Give me
punch
the
their ticket?
Falcons minus the 12. I believe Ohio plays Friday.
No, Ohio's up.
Ohio's playing right
14-7.
now. Yes. And they're on
They
the one.
win.
And
They
they're on
punch
the
their
one.
ticket to a MAC title.
Look at that.
Shout
Curtis
out.
Rourke's old squad, and he's playing against Ohio State this weekend at 10-0. So shout out Ohio. They got some guys rolling right now. Reese, can we hear you?
No.
No, we can't. Just put it on the screen, Reese.
Put it on
Put
the
up your
screen.
best bet because then we're going to recap the episode tonight.
While
Write
he's
it down.
pulling it up,
The Stephen
Illinois.
Hawking play of the week. Put it up.
Jesus. We're out of control tonight.
some thoughts on Illinois.
That's what happens when we go over an hour and 5 minutes, Jake. We get a little frisky. Illinois, who did you say?
Illinois
JP?
-1 at Rutgers. Feels like that's
Okay.
my other best bet. Like, I made some money on Illinois this year. I think they win that one too.
Yeah, the only one that Illinois screwed us on, JP, while Reese writes this down, is that Minnesota game. Just didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
But
I think we
Vegas
walked
fell
into that
for it.
one. I
Yeah,
think
Vegas was
I think we got
baiting ya.
confident. I did say on that episode, I said
Tennessee,
Yeah.
UTEP over 48.5. Team total over 48.5.
I like
Oh,
that. So Tennessee to
golly.
drop
Also-
50 burger on the UTEP Miners is Reese's play of the week. God, that's greasy. I love
Last
that.
week, lock of the century of the year hit for you. JP, what was my lock of the century of the year?
last year.
Last week.
Island,
what was my lock-
folks.
What was my lock of the century last
Lock
week?
of the century of the year.
I texted you.
Shit.
Try
Just
laying
saying.
Check the mobile.
try laying Kentucky minus 38
Oh
and a
yeah,
half
Kentucky. It's true.
on Murray State. Had that one on Friday. Lay
Yeah,
it.
That's
about like
funny. You
39.
text people separately. Your picks are so confident. I'm sending it in the chat, asshole. But all right, Kentucky's got an interesting line this weekend. +20. Can they stay within 20? I mean, that defense has staggered some good offenses. So keep an eye on that one. Kentucky plus the 20.5 on the road this weekend.
Mic check.
But all right. There he is.
He's back.
Mic check.
Right.
Here we go. I don't know what happened here. Everything is perfectly fine on my end. I don't know what happened.
All right. That was definitely weird, but you're just back in time to wrap up tonight's show. The Week 13 preview. That's all. We covered 6 full games along with the college football playoff discussion. We also gave you our best bets and underdogs of the week. We appreciate you being here. Reminder to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We love you. Play the fight song. We'll be back next week to preview Week 14, Army, Navy, all the bowl games. Nonetheless, 134 through 134. So hit that like and subscribe button today. Use the code PTFS at shopnorivals.com or all your premium collegiate headwear. Jake, take us away.
See you next time. Let's play it.